Hey, good morning, folks. We're going to continue working on the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we've been creating to publish online for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. This is an expansion and further dive into combat and exploration mechanics using the Spelljamming setting, Spelljammer setting that Wizards published in August last year. So we are... give me a second here to check my signal, make sure everything's coming through okay, and then we will get started here. So let's see if we're coming through okay. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic checking if we're coming through okay. Check. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. All right, sounds good. Set up my intro here, and then we'll get started. So, beep, beep. All right, hey, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing game supplements and I illustrate them, then publish online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past few years. Hey, Chronic, there's a slew of work that I've already produced that are listed in the description down below. It's all full previews, so if you're here for the artwork, there's probably about 150 different illustrations amongst the pieces, amongst the books that are listed down there. If you're here specifically for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, all the work that I produce is designed to be used on both sides of the screen for both players and DMs to use alike. If you find any of the content interesting and useful for your campaign, consider making a purchase to help encourage more behavior such as this. Otherwise, you can support the channel. One more second here. Beep, 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 beep. Right. Arranging my windows. And other ways to support the channel is Patreon. There's a Patreon link that you can follow down below to help fund my need for coffee. I just posted I'm live on Twitter. So if you want to find out when I'm live in the future, I always post on Twitter. You can follow me at Theurgy. Best way to help support the channel, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We're currently at episode 210 of designing the Spelljammer supplement. I am hoping that my subscriber count, currently at 204, can stay above the episode count, 210. So if you're new to the stream, welcome to the mix. Hey, Hernetico, it's good to see you, my guy. What do we do here? We create role-playing game supplements. I created this back around episode around episode 15. So what do? We create an idea that is going to help express new mechanics or different narrative for playing Dungeons & Dragons. In this instance, it might be Cypher in the future. Who knows? But you create the supplement. You play test the idea. You then go in and you make all the words good. Send it off to the editor. They clean it up for you. Send it back. We then break it down into each individual page, such as this. And then, and then you see here that we have gaps that are left open in the content as we go along. We then, for example, currently we are down on Squadrons and Fleets. So we have gaps in the page here. We then drop into Photoshop here. We take these gaps in the page and we create artwork for it. Once it's all done, we seal it back up into a single PDF. We publish it online like the things down below. And then we move on to the next project. So I'm here 6 days a week, Monday through Friday like this. In the morning, I'm doing Spelljammer Art like that. And Monday and Thursday night, we do Eberron cartography and character creature tokens for the Eberron adventure that we're creating. Tuesday, I do mechanical development, just like this sort of stuff from idea to raw text. That will eventually be sent off to editor and then added to this book creation process. And then on Saturday, tomorrow morning, we do either personal projects or right now, I am working on a book cover commission for an Abyssal adventure. So, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, blah. So let's get to work. Enough about me. Let's talk about this. I got a timer set here. And we got about a little less than 100 minutes of fun at this point. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Dive into it. So this week, we've been exploring the concepts of combat and exploration, the different types of movement at different scales that ships can take at the 500, 50, and 5-foot scale of movement, similar to what we do in 5th edition combat as creatures, or say creatures on mounts, or say a Drake Warden Ranger on the back of a flying dragon. It has these same types of movement mechanics that you're already used to in 5th edition if you play 5th edition. So right now what we're doing is we are illustrating the squadrons and fleets, and we'll just read a little bit here and then get into the art of it. So ships can be grouped together to create squadrons and fleets that you can command to move and act in unison, following the general rules detailed in both the ships and weapons, both the ships and weapon and crew sections above. I should probably change the language on that. Well, we'll look at that. Forever a work in progress, my guys. Man, maybe that's wonky wording. In the sections above, for ships, as well as the weapons and crew sections above, maybe that's the way it works, as well. That's why we have different phrases to break up monotony, and I should fix that. So, uses the ships and weapons and crews stuff from above with the following exceptions. So, squadrons. Squadrons are measured by the number of spaces that ships occupy, up to 10 spaces per squadron. And of course, the language that we've used previously is that, like, if you have a ship that's, say, 130 feet, like a space galleon, it's going to occupy a 3x3 space because it's divided by 50. It's 3, so 130 rounds up to 150. Which gets broken into 3 spaces, and then everything in 5th edition is a square, not a rectangle. So the 3x3 space, so that is 1, 2, 3 spaces, right? So if we're going to have a squadron, and we're going to break it down here, into a 10 squares, and we have 1 galleon here, and another galleon here, like another galleon here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then like have like a manta ray ship, a fighter craft. That would be a single square. That'd be 10. So this would be 3 ships. 1, that's 10. Obviously, there's gaps that you can still fill here. To have like a wasp ship here, a damsel fly there. There's enough space here potentially. Blah blah blah. So, squadrons are measured by the number of spaces that the ships occupy, up to 10 spaces per squadron. Commanding multiple squadrons is detailed in the fleet section below. So, single ships can't form squadrons, but the ship a squadron commander is aboard can be grouped with the squadron or piloted separately within the squadron. When the ship the characters are aboard is grouped with other ships to form a squadron or fleet, the ship can be piloted by an NPC of the squadron's rank, using its action as commanded, or a character can act as the pilot. When the pilot is a character, both the pilot and the commander can issue commands to the squadron or fleet that the ship has joined, grouping the character's ship into the squadron's commands. If you have been on board with us from before, you know that commanders issue verbal commands to take control of 1 or more siege weapons, and then you group all those siege weapons to attack together, to deal damage together, but they increase the reload time needed for all those weapons to process together as a squadron or as a crew, to be able to get all their actions coordinated again, to be able to follow a volley together. Similarly, squadrons group up the ships together and then fire. And a pilot commands a ship, but can also issue commands as a squadron commander. A squadron commander role character can order an NPC aboard the ship to move as well. So it's all the same action economy. It's just how's it being framed. So vessels. A squadron of vessels occupying... maybe I want to... Let's see. A squadron of vessels occupies a 500-foot square, with each ship contributing to the total size of the squadron. For example... Scorpion ships are 75 feet long, occupying a 2x2 space. 5 Scorpion ships can organize as a 10x10 squadron, all occupying the same 500-foot square. Craft. A squadron of craft occupy a 50-foot square, with each ship contributing to the total size of the squadron. For example, arrow ships are 15 feet long, occupying a 3x3 space. 3 arrow ships can organize as a 9x9 squadron, all occupying the same 50-foot square. So let's see. Single ships can't squadrons. Combined squadrons. Actually, I'm looking at Removing ships from a squadron. Squadron statistics. Taking damage. Hit points. Speed. Nope. I think this is squadron. Squadrons are measured by measure. Single ships can't. I think maybe what I want to do here is take this block here. I feel like I want to drop this down to here, and then like commanding squadrons. Correct that so that we can change the language up here just specifically, instead of being part of the description of the squadron, break it out into commanding squadrons. And from there, combine squadrons. From there, what we can do is here. See, when I created this, I had the text with an idea of how to explain this stuff. But when I actually create the artwork for these things, that's when, let's see, vessels, combined squadrons, that's the proper place to be. Nope, this is the way. This is where it should be. I don't necessarily know like what art is going to be needed for each section. I just have an idea, like having a visual here for how these vessels organize. That makes sense. Having a visual for how you combine squadrons. Combined squadrons is vessels and craft that occupy the same 500-foot square can both contribute to the total size of the squadron. For each 10 spaces of craft, rounded up, for each 10 spaces of craft contributing to the squadron, the number of 50-foot spaces occupying the 500-foot square increases by 1. For example, 3 spiderlings, 8x8 craft each, total 24 by 24 craft, and 1 night spider, 4x4 vessel, can combine as a squadron occupying a combined 7x7 space within a 500-foot square. So then I get to illustrate those craft like that, and then I get to illustrate like this. Now the question is, because of the space constraints that I have on the page, do I want to like combine these two craft and vessel sections here and then just have like a single illustration doing both craft and vessels and then combined over here? Or do I want to go like combined, like vessel, craft, and then combined all underneath that, and then have a single illustration over here depicting all of this stuff, which is a viable path. I'm trying to figure that out. So this ideation stage is you know, pretty much where we're at right now, figuring out how we're supposed to describe this stuff, how we're supposed to visualize what we're describing. So, let's see. First off, I definitely don't want this much of a gap. Vessels, craft, squadrons, commanding. Okay, I can. Okay. So we take this and we push that down. I have organizing squadrons, and we break that down into its two sections. Commanding squadrons, organizing squadrons, 50 craft. Organizing squadrons. This is the way. That's why I wanted to move that. I just didn't know which direction I wanted to move it in. Cut. There we go. Squadrons and fleets, commanding squadrons, organizing squadrons into vessels and craft. That is a better way to structure this information, which means that I'll have to go back tonight and reword and reorganize this stuff so it's speaking specifically to their individual topics. Organizing squadrons, vessels, craft, combined squadrons. I'm wondering, this is, maybe we want to have like vessels, craft. Yeah, maybe I do it like this, because it certainly fits. It fits, which probably means it should be something like that. And then we've got this type formations here. And now we have this space to do vessels, craft, combined squadrons. A squadron can include more ships than 10 spaces by adding more ships to the squadron. If a ship can't completely occupy the space, remove it from the squadron. Adding additional ships doesn't increase the space occupied beyond 10 squares when determining damage, but it does increase the total hit points of the squadron. The ship can't... let's hit my timer there. Let's grab some coffee. Adding additional ships doesn't increase the space occupied beyond 10 squares when determining damage, but it does increase the total hit points of the squadron. The ships to distribute damage as detailed in the squadron, but it does increase the total hit points of the squadron and number of ships to distribute damage between as detailed in the squadron hit points section below. If the number of craft in a 50-foot scale squadron can occupy more than a 10 by 10 space, they can instead be grouped into a combined squadron at the 500-foot scale as detailed above. If the number of ships in a 500-foot scale squadron can occupy more than a 10 by 10 space, they can instead be grouped into a fleet as detailed below. So let's see. If I have a fleet, and if I could do here, vessel, here, craft, here, combined. So I'll need to resize these things so they all work together. These are going to end up being diagrams, like for example, we'll end up taking these ships, like dropping them into groups, like a 10 by 10 space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it'd be groupings like this. Tokens. Space Galleon. Just to demonstrate what this will look like. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By 10. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And now I can start overstuffing the space. Air bubbles. I could potentially take this 3x3 vessel and cram 9 of these ships. 1, 2, 3, 9 ships, right? But each ship occupies a 3x3 space. So this is technically what 9 times. This is 27 squares worth of space occupied by this squadron of space galleons. But as we read in mechanics down below, once you hit the 10x10, the 10x10 cap, you don't keep accumulating damage. It's not like it's going to do like. You'll see it in a minute, but like this would be like, say, 10d6 damage times 10 because they're siege weapons. So they have like roughly there's two ballistas and one mangonel per ship. So that's 18 ballistas. So that'd be like, and if your ballista's doing d4 times 10 damage, it would be 18 d4 times 10 damage, which is it scales out too quickly. So instead what we do is we put a cap of 10x10 on the damage, and when I'm damaging a ship, you can, like if I did like say 10d4 times 10 damage is my cap. So if I did like say 200 damage, and each one of these galleons has 240 hit points, on average, I'm going to almost be destroying a single ship. So it's going to take roughly 210, what is that, 10, technically 25, it's 250 because of rounding up, 2.5 times 10, and then times 10, 200. So on average, I'm going to be able to destroy one ship each attack if I had one squadron of galleons attacking another squadron of galleons. But the total group of the entire area would be 240 times 9, which is 2,160 hit points total. So if I were to hit this squadron with an area of effect that somehow dealt, like if I hit it with a meteor swarm, right, it's probably only going to do like maybe 240 damage, but I would then be able to ding each of these ships. It's not like I'm going to total up. I don't technically total up all the hit points of all the ships. I'm keeping an individual track of how much damage each of these ships take. If it's more than 250, I could do like 50 damage to this one, so it one's down to 190, 50 damage to this one, so it's 190, and 50 damage to this one, so it's 190. And then these ships are unharmed. So you can distribute that damage as you please, but if the damage is above 250, the DM could just be dropping off one ship at a time. The damage would remain 10x10 until I got rid of all 6 of those ships. Now this damage would drop to 94 times 10. And once I lose that ship, it drops down to 64 times 10, etc. So that's the idea behind that. Let's not. Let's take this all back, rewind it back so I have my ship back. But I just wanted to walk through those mechanics real quick, just to talk them out. But this is the kind of visuals that I need to put inside of each one of these square blocks. So going back. Oh, I ran out of. Well, that's fun. It's a lot easier to just walk people through it and point at things and explain it than it is to put things on text and have a passive conversation with them. But that's why we're getting paid the big bucks. And now that we understand how these things work, we're looking at a squadron, like for instance, 5 Scorpion ships, so I can have let's get these out of here and put them on the right layer. Scorpion, 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 Scorpion. Yeah. Craft. 50-foot square. Example of arrow ships, 3 of them. There you go. Then combined fleet, for example, 3 spiderlings. Spiderling. 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 Night spider. Bop, bop, bop. Bop, bop, bop. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. 1, 1, 1, 4. 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now I need to think about, do I want to... I have these things occupying that space pretty easily. Organized squadrons. It makes sense. Okay, so this is the flow of thought from logic here. Commanding squadrons, and then we're pushing down the page. And I got organizing squadrons as vessels and craft. The problem is I want to talk about tight formations after I talk about this, but obviously I'm having to put my illustrations here to the sides to resolve the text blocks that are being referred to alongside them. That is a logical. I mean, like vessel, craft, combined. I want to... I could potentially have like another scorpion in here and then point that one out as like this one is exceeding, that would take it to 12 over 10 equals 10 by 10. I could express that there as a for example. That like that's how I want to express this. So if I took this and pushed it to the top up here, that would crowd the information here. This might be the best way to do that. Wait a second. Okay, so let's look at the next page, because maybe I should be pushing type formations over to the next page, because there's a lot of space over here. So I could potentially, God damn it, save. Let's get rid of that. I'll bring it back up again. This might actually be the way. If we get rid of that block, it opens up space, so I could potentially make these larger. I don't hate that idea. That there, and then grab this here. push that down the page. Squadron statistics, speed, hit points, taking damage. Ooh, I like that. The number of craft, the number of ships, any additional. Squadron properties, squadron statistics. So removing ships from a squadron. If a ship leaves the space occupied the squadron, it no longer contributes to that squadron, and the size of the squadron is reduced by the size of the lost ship. If a squadron is reduced to one ship, it can group with other ships to form a new squadron. It can be commanded as a single ship, or the ship acts independently as deemed appropriate by the DM. For example, if a 9x9 squadron of 3 galleons, each 3x3, loses one ship, the size of the squadron is reduced to 6x6. Oh! That's the answer right there. Swap those. There you go, you bitches. Nice. Yep, that can work. So we can then have language here. Yeah, this is if the squadron is reduced. For example, of 9-9 squadron of 3 galleons loses one ship. The size of the squadron is reduced to 6x6. There. That doesn't require a visual of me like drawing an arrow and having a ship removed equals less. Like, that's something that can just be verbalized. Doesn't necessarily require a visual. Once we established what the visuals for these are, we should be okay with this not having a visual. Meanwhile, on the next page, we do type formations, a squadron. If the number of craft in a 50-foot square squadron can occupy more than 10x10 space, the number of the ship is blah, blah, blah. That then allows us to instead create here. Merge down. Merge down. TXT. Here. Now, one ship, 2 ship, 3 ship, 4 ship, 5 ship, 6 ship, 7 ship, 8 ship, 9 ship. There you go. Burp. Ship. And instead, you know what? Honestly, and then we can, the number of craft in a 50-foot squadron can occupy more than 10x10 space. They can instead be grouped. I think I can take this block and push it down to talking about, give me, fleets. So fleets are similar to commanding both squadrons and multiple siege weapons as described in the squadrons and weapons and crews sections above. When 2 or more squadrons occupy adjacent 500-foot squares, they can be commanded as a fleet. The illustration below depicts different fleet formations. I feel like I can drop that text in here. Like that. Reorganize this so it's talking about, hey, if you have more ships than can occupy a single squadron, and you don't want to travel in tight formation, you can instead organize them into different squadrons that work together as a single fleet. There. And then removing squadrons from a fleet. Squadrons that aren't in formation with the rest of the fleet are commanded to move or attack separately from the remaining fleet. They require separate commands as well. I need to readdress how I worded that. Yeah, but I think this is the way to reorganize this, just to change the thinking on it a bit. Sorry if this isn't the most exciting art stream, but this is the process of creating a PDF. You have your ideas, you put them down, you start doing your artwork, you see that the diagrams and stuff that you want to do aren't quite jiving with how you have the information organized. So you must then reorganize the information, rewrite the sections that are being moved around so that they're properly referencing the information that's being presented. That way you can have a more coherent thought about what it is that you're producing. So this is... Hopefully this document doesn't feel too much like a fevered dream. That's why we're trying to go through this process to make it just flow as logically as possible. So we know what these are diagrams. I don't need to build these diagrams. You saw me building one in those galleons up top already. So that's not exciting stuff. So we're going to skip that and move on to the next one. We have here the squadron properties. It's talking about, like, if you have multiple ships in the same squadron, all their gravity planes are aligned together. The support role help focus options and help reload options can target scuttled ships separately to rejoin the squadron. Otherwise, they can be commanded separately or act independently. It's like if you get attacked with a ram attack and then, like, say this ship gets scuttled. While it's scuttled, it's no longer operating as part of the squadron because it can't act. It's been scuttled. Scuttling is when basically you knock a ship off of its axis and cause everything, including the creatures inside the ship, to fall inside of the ship. Like, they all fall down to, like, the left. Like when two ships touch, their planes align. So if I've got a plane of gravity this way and I've got a plane of gravity this way, and this ship is bigger and it hits this ship, that causes that ship's gravity to shift effectively like this. And then everybody here falls this way and everyone down here falls this way to meet this new center of gravity. And that causes falling damage to everybody that's getting pushed to the new center point. It causes pilots to fall out of their chair and lose concentration on flying. It causes weapon crews to fall away from their siege weapons. They can't fire it anymore. They have to correct their axis or get separated so they can reestablish their own axis so they can all get back up on their feet and go back to their stations. Scuttling is when they get knocked asunder like that, and then they have to focus, refocus, or be helped to focus. The commander has to take an action. It's like if a weapon fails a reload check, you have to use an attack action or a reaction to command that crew specifically to reload its weapon, get with the program, and catch up to the rest of the crew. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. In the squadron as well, if a ship gets scuttled or knocked out of squadron and you want to have it contributing again to that squadron, you have to call it out specifically with an attack action, or in this instance a help focus action or a reaction to have that ship realign and then contribute to the squadron that you are currently commanding. using the same action economy that we're using for pilots and siege commanders above. It's just now those siege weapons and ships are the same role as a squadron. So the gravity planes are all aligned. There's an air envelope. Each ship in the squadron retains its own air envelope. So I could catch this ship on fire, but it's not going to pollute the rest of the ships in the fleet. Squadron statistics. Speed squadrons that use a combination of major and minor helms can travel at the major spelljamming helm speed, while craft remain in the gravity plane of the accompanying vessels. Otherwise, a squadron of ships with minor helms is limited to moving at a scale of 10 miles per square, traveling only 1 million miles per day. The scale and number of squares moved each round is determined by the squadron commander as detailed in the ship rules section above. In the combat, hit points. Each ship retains its individual hit points. When a ship is reduced to 0 hit points, remove it from the squadron as detailed above. Ships in a squadron only take damage if the damage meets or exceeds the damage threshold. Damage reduction. The DR of the squadron. Taking damage from attacks. When a squadron takes damage from an attack, choose how much damage the commander takes. If the remaining damage exceeds the squadron's damage reduction, the commander chooses how many ships are damaged up to the number of ships or creatures attacking the squadron and how much the remaining damage each chosen ship takes individually. For example, if a squadron of 2 ships deals 360 points of damage to a squadron of 5 vessels, after damage reduction, a commander with 61 hit points can choose to take 60 points of damage with a concentration DC of 30 and divide the remaining 300 points between any 2 ships. So there's 2 ships. You take 60 points of damage for the commander. That leaves 300 to divide between any 2 ships. I feel like I should have a diagram for that. Taking damage from areas of effect. When a squadron is damaged by an area of effect, choose how much damage the commander takes. The remaining damage is dealt to each ship within the area. The remaining damage is dealt to each ship within the area. Can die between any number of ships. There's some word issues here. You can divide the damage between any number of ships within the area instead of each ship taking the amount of damage rolled. For example, if 4 ships in a squadron take 110 damage from a meteor swarm spell, the commander could choose to take 30 points of the remaining 80. Choose to take 30 points, and the remaining 80 points are dealt to each of the 4 ships. Maybe that doesn't need... Like an illustration here would be useful because it'd be a squadron, and then you have another squadron of 2 ships here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 1 ship can hit here, and 1 ship can hit here. But these other 3 ships can't be hit because there's only 2 ships that are attacking. I feel like I need to word on that more. Like have targeting ships in a squadron. Squadron materials. Targeting ships in a squadron. If a squadron is targeted by ranged attacks at 500-foot scale, the squadron commander chooses which ships are hit and how much damage each takes. If you want to attack a specific ship in a squadron, you must close distance and enter the space occupied by the target squadron. Vessels can be attacked individually within 500 feet at the 50 and 5-foot scale. Craft can be attacked individually within 50 feet at the 5-foot scale. The illustration below depicts a flitter craft closing distance with a squadron of vessels at the 50-foot scale within a 500-foot square. At this scale, the flitter can attack any ship within the squadron. So we got a square here. I feel like some of the page in the previous page is going to get pulled into this one. But here's our square. Here's a flitter. Vessel, vessel, vessel. Yeah, vessel, vessel, vessel. That is accurate. That's correct. But targeting ships in a squadron. So let's look at how this stuff is sitting. Tight formations, squadrons, hit points, taking damage from areas of effect. Hit points. Trying to see where the logic, where is the logic in what we're doing? Squadron materials, targeting ship. I feel like this targeting ships should be in another section altogether. Where is that going to go? Squadron weapons, vessels, siege weapon. Siege weapon attacks. Tracking individual weapon damage. Mounted weapon attacks. Combined squadron damage. Where was that? Was that here? Mounted weapon attacks. This is where this stuff would populate. So let's see here. Combined squadron damage. Craft. Mounted weapon attacks. Tracking individual. Yep, this is where it belongs. Let's go find it. Fudgosaurus. Let's fix this real quick and then we'll reopen and fix the window. Push that to there. I'll take this to here. Like that. I am going to potentially rearrange the text so it's more like that. Targeting ships in a squadron, combine squadron damage and damage of 6 footers, sum of 6 50-foot spaces combined. And 1 Starmoth 4x4 vessel each with second-rank crews, can organize as a 10 by 10 squadron occupying a 500-foot square. If each of the 7 ships contribute to a squadron siege attack that hits, roll 10d6 times 10 damage. If each of the 7 ships contribute to a squadron mounted weapon attack that hits, roll 10d6 damage. Ooh, okay. So, real facts. This actually does belong. This does belong here. And these 2 things belong down here. Oh, look at that. Suddenly I have enough space to do both of these things. Nice. How did that happen? Okay. Example, here. That can occupy less space. I can push this down. I now have enough space. Ship, flitter, flitter, flitter. Flitter, flitter, flitter. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 4. There. Okay, cool. Holy shit, this is actually working out. that is beyond. I did not anticipate that. It's working. Nice. You don't know until you try, and now we are moving towards success. What the hell are you all about, buddy? Oh yeah, that was just scroll. How do I want to? Do I need to do taking damage for area of effect? Right. So now I have the space to break this up. Squadron speed, gravity planes, taking damage. Let's see. Speed, hit points. Yeah, this is working out. And then we can take this. Squadron materials, and then take this. fits. Oh, God, that's such a little aside. Damage reduction is important. Squadron materials. How can I squeeze that nerf? Cargo limit I can fit down here. I get all this business here. To here. It still allows us to have a diagram in here. These things don't require a shitload of space. Taking damage. Timer! Where are we at? 7:20. Cool, we've got shitloads of time. Taking damage. What's on the next page? Squadron weapons. Vessels. Squadron weapons follow the general rules of commanding multiple siege weapons as detailed in the weapons and crew section above with the following considerations. Vessels. When a squadron hits with an attack, the damage and reload score determined by the weapon. Siege weapon attacks. A squadron of vessels. A squadron of vessels with siege weapons that hit with a siege weapon attack. A squadron of vessels with siege weapons that hit with an attack. I can simplify that a bit here, folks. With an attack, can roll a number of damage dice equal to the number of spaces occupied by vessels contributing to the attack. The siege weapon reload score is equal to the number of 50-foot spaces occupied by vessels contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. That warrants an example. We have examples. A second rank squadron with a second rank squadron of 3 space galleons occupy a 9x9 space in the squadron's 500-foot square. If each of the 3 vessels contribute to a squadron siege weapon attack that hits, roll 9d6 times 10 damage. This attack has a reload score of 7. If each of the 3 vessels contribute to a mounted weapon attack that hits, roll 9d6 damage. This attack has a reload score of 1. A squadron of vessels that hits with a mounted weapon attack can roll a number of damage dice equal to the number of spaces occupied by ships contributing to the attack. The mounted weapon reload score is equal to the number of ships contributing to the attack minus the crew rank. 3 ships. There we go. 3 ships, space galleons, second rank crew. 3 minus 2 equals 1. I should probably do more math, like spell it out more. A second rank squadron of 2 space galleons occupy a 6x6 space in the squadron's 500-foot square. If both vessels contribute to a squadron siege weapon attack that hits, roll 6d6 times 10 damage. This attack has a reload score of 4, 6 minus 2. If both vessels contribute to a squadron mounted weapon attack that hits, roll 6d6 damage. This attack has a reload score of 1 because it's 2 minus 2 with a minimum of 1. Tracking individual weapon damage. The rules presented here reduce the complexity of attack and damage rolls during a game. The player and the DM can track the damage of each weapon, the amount and type of damage each deals, the reload score, and ammunition for each if the players and DM choose to, but I don't recommend it. Craft squadrons have similar rules to vessels. Siege weapon attacks, mounted weapon attacks. Here's an example. How do we parse this out? Number of crew rank. I feel like this whole thing should get moved up. Like that. Huh. Yeah, let's do that. Was this in fact the proper course of action? May have been. We may have gone through all that journey just to come back around to realize that we were doing it right in the first place. But honestly, that's a journey worth taking. It's a journey of discovery. Cool, now we have a clever little pocket here. So what do we want to do with this pocket? Number of crew rank, squadron crew, the number of dice dealt and rolled is determined by the ship and weapons of the squadron that make the attack. Squadron crew, taking damage. Let's see what we got going on this page here. Taking damage from attacks. We have space here. I think this is going to work out okay. Squadron materials, armor class. Must be enough creatures aboard to communicate with the commander and pilot the ship, and as well as contribute to attacks. There must be enough to crew any weapons used during combat as listed in the weapons section above. Squadron material, damage reduction, squadron. I don't know, what kind of illustration do we want to have here? Yeah, it's a fun little swarm of ships. That's kind of fun. Yeah, I'm down with that. Examples, tracking individual weapon damage, craft, vessels, examples. Multi-weapon attacks. Okay, maybe we here. Alright, something's going wonky with the program, so I need to save it, close it, reopen it. There we go. That down. Take this one here, pull it to there. That to here. Craft squadrons of craft. Have similar rules to vessels above with the following considerations. Siege weapon attacks. A squadron of craft with siege weapons that hit with a siege weapon attack can roll a number of damage dice equal to the number of craft contributing to the attack. The siege weapon reload score is equal to the number of 5-foot spaces occupied by the craft in the squadron's 50-foot square and are contributing to the attack. I need to figure out how to make that sound less word salady. I see how I can do that better. And I'm now seeing how I can do this better as well. Let's take this down. Let's take this down to here. Let's take this to here. And then we can bond these examples together. Now we have it figured out. Delete, delete, delete. Squadron, craft. 2 illustrations. There you go. Finally, got that shit locked down. This is starting to make sense. Structurally, anyway. Here's this. Here. Actual illustration. All these other things are just diagrams that we've been arranging onto the page. So that's going to be an X. X's mean just mean diagrams on the page. XX means diagrams and also potentially illustrations. X. So any diagram with a single X, I can do off screen on my own time and not bore you with the process. I recognize this isn't the most exciting content, but we're figuring things out here together. How this is supposed to sit, and this is the reality of how game design works. It is tedious. Hey Dennis, do you do writing in Photoshop? No, I use, thanks for sticking around, by the way, and being interested in the process. Here's the Word document that we build. We build all the text in Word, and I'm waiting for the program to wake up, because it's a lot. So here's the cover, right? And so here's all the pages that we've done. We're currently in the thick of it, way down. Right about, obviously we've been rearranging text, but we are right about here. Fleets. So I do all the words. I build the initial document in Google Docs, and then once when I like the initial wording, I send the Google Docs to the editor. The editor then, just as a non-formatted document with just raw text, will take the text and then make words good so that it's using proper language that I can then replicate. And as I go in and I take the raw text and I drop it into individual pages like this, as you're seeing during this process, we have to rearrange where the text sits, because when I first build it, I have a flow of consciousness that I think like a logical progression of how it sits. But once the editing comes back and I start dropping it into page layouts like this, and I start putting in the illustrations, I see these things aren't jiving, which is why we've spent the last hour essentially just rearranging where text is to be able to accommodate the illustrations that we're finding are going to help express the ideas that we're putting out there. Having the visuals makes it easier to digest the information. It might sound like word salad, but when you pair it with an image that's showing you exactly what that means, suddenly your brain can do the switch of like, oh, if I have all these ships sitting in a square together, they're going to do this much damage because this is the rank of the squad, of the crew that's piloting those ships, and this is the size of the ships, and this is the damage that they're doing. So I can create that matrix. And so that leads us to rearranging the text. When we rearrange the text, we also then have to go back into the Word document and potentially change the wording. So off screen, I'm not going to bore you with it here, but off screen, I'm going to come back. I'm going to look at each of these pages that we've modified, and then I have to go and I have to rearrange them on the actual page here. Once we finish rearranging on the page, we'll reload all of these pages back into Photoshop with where these spots are at. So the new text will flow around the art spots that we've already created, and I can erase all these little notations about changing language here in Photoshop, erase all of that. So the only thing that's left is the pristine page, and then we can create a clean illustration. That's the process. Normally, like in a character supplement, like a book of subclasses, for instance. Once the mechanics are on the page, you're just going to take whatever spots are open on the page and put an illustration there that you think is the coolest thing on that page. Like for example, I'll show you like DMsGuild. Let's go to Pacts and Patrons of Ravnica. This is a book of Warlocks that I made. One different Warlock patron for each guild in the Ravnica setting. So, and it's just a bunch of character mechanics. It's like, here's the Azorius Synod as an otherworldly patron. There's a gap here. Azorius do a lot of stuff with scrolls. So I just put a scroll illustration there. And then I have like a half page worth of content and a big open space. So I elected to drop a huge demon binding image in the middle of the page because I don't have anything technical to express with the illustrations because it's just character options. I want the visuals to express the narrative and the fantasy of what's going on in this book. We have the Boros symbol here. We have the Azorius symbol here. We have all the guilds in the guild pact illustrated here. Here's a cityscape. We're just dropping in flavor narrative images into the document, which is what you typically see. But when we're working with, there's a lot of really fucking great illustrations in here. I utterly love, this book has not been a great seller because it's a Ravnica setting. It's for Warlocks specifically, and it's alternate Warlock otherworldly patrons that you may just want to play you might just want to play a divine a divine warlock, whatever they're called, instead of like my custom Boros Legion patron. You might just go with what's already in the player's handbook and just reflavor to what you want. But these are here as kind of a mechanical concept, as legitimate character options, but it's couture design about like more flavor for the Ravnica setting being expressed through Warlock options. So all the artwork I get to do for Demir here, I get to do all this artwork for stuff that these characters that pick up these Warlocks patrons are capable of doing. So it's fun illustrating this stuff because it's just illustrations, it's just paintings, all narrative focused stuff. So, but when we dive into a technical manual like this, we have to do a lot of, just like in the combat section of any of the player handbooks, there's going to be diagrams demonstrating how things work. A lot more so in 3rd and 4th edition than was in 5th edition. But again, the largest critique of 5th edition is how little direction there is. So when I was building this book about movement, I wanted to make sure that I was packing it full of diagrams depicting how ships sit on the map. So as you read the book, you start to absorb, this is what it's going to look like on the maps that I build for my adventure. So you're just transferring the knowledge from the page directly to your campaign. And the blocks of text are explaining that process. But then occasionally we have like little pockets here that we can legitimately put illustrations in. So we build a flavor, like here's a bunch of elven, like a elven squadron attacking an illithid nautiloid. Like that'll be a fun little piece of spot art. It doesn't have to be super intense detail, but it'll help lock in the flavor of the stuff that we're doing here. So we prioritize diagrams and technical illustrations, and then we take the opportunity of when it arises and space allows to drop in those narrative illustrations, because most of this stuff is just ship interactions. So I'm just depicting different types of ships engaging with each other at different scales. So it's just ship combat spot art, but none of that stuff exists. So creating these cool little spot art pieces helps create a more unique document overall. But yeah, so there you go. I build it. I do all the text in Word, Google Docs first, export to editor, editor's done, import it from Google Docs into Word, do the text arrangement. I then build PDFs like here, open. Actually, let's do it this way. Open with. Yeah. So here's a 2-page document that I built because I rearranged the text on this page via this process that we've been going through here. So once the text got rearranged, I rebuilt it in Photoshop. I then exported it to this Word. I then exported it to this PDF. I then took this PDF. I then opened it up in Photoshop here. It then opens up each individual page as a PDF. I then copy the text off of this and then drop it into the master document. Erase that, go on to the next page, pick up this one, copy all the text here, paste it into this new page here, and then move on to the next page. And then as I fulfill swapping out the text, I destroy that, and when it's done and I drop in the new text, it's going to have all of this language, all this language stuff is going to be fixed in Word. So when I drop it in, it's a pristine page with the spaces open here, and I can then proceed with building out the diagram or the illustration that's at the bottom of the page. So this ideation process that we've been going through today, or mostly this week, has been making sure that the flow of information in the text is aligning with the diagrams that we're building. Once all the diagrams are configured, then we find where the actual spaces are open for the illustrations, like actual illustrations, to drop into the pages. It's being demonstrated to me this week that people are less interested in me going through this word salad. They don't want to see the labor pain. They just want the baby. So I'm finding that me going through this ideation process, I think is important for people to see how that goes. Because the whole reason I created this art stream in the first place was to show the kind of work that goes into building a PDF, to building a document in the first place. This is a 110-page document that we're building that has hardcore mechanics for ship movement, combat, character roles aboard those ships, and how to make all that stuff smoothly interact from the 5-foot scale, 50-foot scale, 500-foot scale, and then 1 mile up to 100 million miles through exploration. Have all those mechanics work together smoothly, and so far we're up to our 210th episode of going through that creation process, post-edit layouts, and then post-layout artwork. Like 110 pages is probably going to take 300 episodes to complete. So, and I'm doing work on my own time off screen as well. Right now, most of that time is being spent on redoing all the text. So in the morning, I go through this ideation process. In the evening, after I finish my day job, I fire up the word processor and I consolidate all this information and drop it back into the Photoshop document. And we're getting to the end of the document. So the very last page in the combat and movement, combat and weapons section is making repairs for your ship. And there's no real space on this page for illustrations, which is why we already have a lock on that page. This one here talking about crewmen, hiring crew and their ranks and stuff, and like how to like restock supplies and your lifestyles, all that stuff, like technical bits like maintaining a ship and its crew, as maintaining squadrons, locating crews. That there's no real room. I mean, I could try to pinch in a piece of spot art here, but I'm stretching. I'm forcing a piece in. I'm just going to let that be open space and just have a little bit of breathing room at the bottom of the page. But the rest of these, like I can realistically put in like a crewman picture here. We haven't gotten to this portion, so we might have to rearrange stuff here as well. But this is specifically talking about fleet properties, just like we spent all these pages talking about squadron properties. Fleets are multiple squadrons that work together. So you take an individual ship, you group a number of ships together to create a squadron, and then you take that, and then all those ships are operating basically as essentially one ship. And then for a fleet, you take multiple squadrons and you combine all of those together to create a single fleet. So you could have 40 ships amongst 4 squadrons that are all sitting inside of one fleet, and all of that uses the exact same action economy off of your character. It's just a larger scale. What's to prevent your characters from acquiring 40 ships and then going and destroying, say, Waterdeep? Well, you got to get the ships. You got to get a crew that's willing to do it. You then have to fight through any defense forces that are in the realm space sphere to get you to Waterdeep in the first place. And then Waterdeep's going to attack you with the same weapons that you're going to be using to attack it. So you're having to fight against a stationary city as a structure, a 5-mile structure designed to fight off extra-dimensional threats. So if you bring your fleet in to attack Waterdeep, it is going to retaliate against you while you try to rain stones down on it. So there's a conflict there. They have their own ships that they can take out and attack you. They just don't talk about it. So you're going to have to deal with squadrons of fighter craft under the secret navy of Waterdeep to fend off threats like this. So nothing's preventing you from doing it. You just got to figure out as a team how to accumulate the fleet, the crew that are willing to be on board to do it, the logistics of being able to get within space, and surviving the battle in the first place. That could be, you could easily run a 1 to 10 level campaign to try to level the city of Waterdeep. Or, as defenders, you could then take Waterdeep and build and have all the turret structures and the fleet in that's quietly in Waterdeep, waiting something like this to happen. And you as a player, you're now taking, like, say, 7th level characters, and you're going to take command of the squadrons to hold off this illithid invasion that's come to harvest souls out of Waterdeep, for instance. Like in the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer, you got the Nautiloid ship flying through the city, scooping up people as it goes to collect new slaves and whatever, new food sources. You could have a squadron of fighter ship designed to hold to fight that threat if you know that your area is being raided by illithid Nautiloids. Like, if you know that's a threat, you can assemble a fleet to fight those ships and have them on standby for when a ship shows up to raid your town. You can send out a rescue team to fight them off, a defense force. So anyway, but those are some of the things that you can do. So we go through the book and you explain how all this stuff works. So anyway, that's it. It is almost 8 o'clock in the morning here in Seattle. So thanks for sticking around and watching the process. I know this isn't the sexiest stuff doing this text rearrangement. But tomorrow morning, we're going to be back. We're going to be working on a book cover painting that we're creating for Brian Holmes of Fallen Wyvern Games. And I can't believe I'm Andy. Thank you, Andy Healy, Old Goat Productions. Fallen Wyvern and Old Goat got together to make an adventure involving a 70-foot abyssal walking tank that basically punches holes through reality to destroy targets from a different plane of existence. It's kind of up my alley. So I'm doing the book cover for that adventure, and I do that on Saturday mornings. So that's what I'll do tomorrow morning. When I come back, and then the rest of my day tomorrow will be off stream doing all of this text, and then once all that text is done, starting to build out all the diagrams and ship stuff that is too boring for you guys to actually want to watch. So that when I come back around on Monday morning, hopefully I'll have all this ideation taken care of, and all I'll be focusing on is the 17 illustrations that are needed inside of this combat section, taking care of all the diagrams on the back end. So now that I get through the entire process of ideation, in the mornings I can focus on the artwork, and then in the evenings I can finish up all the diagrams. Once all the diagrams are done, I can then shift my focus again into the evening to finishing and progressing with the illustrations that are in the chapter. So as I move from day to day, I'll have work in the morning, more work in the evening, and I'll just be bouncing. Like, the more interesting ones I'll do in the morning on stream, the less interesting ones I'll do off camera, or if they're frustrating me or I have to do a lot of ideation, I'll do them in the evening off stream where I don't have to bore you with that with that production grind. So that's it. And so when we finish this one, then we'll open up the exploration chapter, which is we already finished the spellcasting chapter. So you can see that back around episode like 170 is when we did the spellcasting section, and we did all the illustrations for that. That section is done. I just haven't dropped any of the illustrations into the document to keep the document smaller. But once we finish all of the PDF art, we'll just be taking them and we'll just be dropping them in as objects or as backgrounds. And just fill up each page. Click, 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 click. Fill those all in. Before I do that, I have all of these little marks on the page like this. These are all different hyperlink locations. Like, see the drifting section in like the anti-magic field. If you hit an anti-magic field, your helm gets disrupted. If your ship is moving when you hit it, then you're going to be drifting. And then so go see the drifting section. So I'm going to have to build a hyperlink out of this that'll link to the drifting section further down below here. And I've got like 50 of these little navigation numerations that I need to put throughout the document. So before I drop in all the images in here, I'll have to truss up the pages and hyperlink everything so I can have the table of content built correctly and have all the hyperlinks throughout the document to be able to jump back and forth across the document to self-reference information. I'll have all that trussed up before I then start dropping in the images. And once I drop all the images in, at that point it'll be done. And I can fuse the document into a PDF and then publish it. And then I'll have, so there'll be the PDF, which will have like that huge preview so you can get all this information, just understand what it is that you'd be buying if you do. And then I'll have a zip folder that has the 6 combat maps for the the Light of Xeraxis conversion. It has 72 tokens, like 9. It has like 8 fightercraft tokens, black and white as well as color, so like 16 images. And there's the 20 vessels, also color and black and white. There are like 25 NPCs and creatures in the Light of Xeraxis adventure that we created tokens for, like back around episode 60 through 110. As well as all the creatures that are 50 feet or larger in size to fight ships at larger scales. There's like 17 of those that we have in the creature menagerie section further down in the book, like around somewhere around here. Yeah, creatures. Here you go, unusual beasts. And then we have a random system generator where we've already done preliminary sketches for that stuff. And once we do all that, here's the Appendix 2, Converting Light of Xeraxis. Here's all the modifications that we made to the Light of Xeraxis adventure using all the mechanics in the book already. And this will all be maps and diagrams with there's no need for illustrations in this because it's all technical data. I'm not illustrating the adventure. I'm providing technical details of maps and token movement and encounter information for you to run Light of Xeraxis using our combat and exploration mechanics. So it has alternate options, new challenges, different ways to approach old challenges. And you can see I have a preliminary layout here, but I'm still going to have to, this is 20 pages. I'm going to have to go through the same ideation process and flow of information like we're doing in the combat section right now. We're going to have to go through all of this process with these layouts as well for the book. And that's probably going to take a couple weeks too. So realistically, we're probably not going to have this published until the end of October, which I fucking hate saying, but it seems realistic that's true. I can't rush it because when it's done, it's not done until it makes sense and it's good looking. And that takes time. Technically, there are no deadlines other than the ones I set for myself, but almost every day I run into a conversation either on Discord, Reddit, mostly Discord and Reddit, sometimes Facebook, people asking questions about how a Spelljammer is supposed to work. It's a constant question over and over again. How the fuck am I supposed to make this thing work? And this book is full of answers that you can then use to make your own rulings to craft your own campaign. So I am chomping at the bit to get this thing done so I can get it out, so I can start saying, hey, go look at the free preview at page 92 here's the answer that you're asking about right here in Topola's Tower, the Obama hunt. Here's how you can have the Scabbard darting through asteroids and have your team chase them on a skip to kill it as a more dynamic encounter. Like, Topola's Tower is a boring encounter. What can I do to spruce it up? Well, here's a two-page expansion of that specific encounter that you can use these mechanics with to lead you on to the next part of the adventure. Like, I can't really answer those questions because right now all I can do is say, hey, show up to my stream and ask me, and I'll point it out to you, and then you can take it from there. But you can't walk away with the document to actually do it. I need to have this done. So you can say, hey, go check out page 92. Go check out page 27. You've got a guy overboard and you're wondering how far away you can see him. Go look at page 65, and you can see how far with an aura you can see him, the naked eye, or if you have like if you have a telescope, how far away can you see that person, and what's going to be the DC to detect them. We have all that in here. So anyway, I'm ranting because I'm excited, but also frustrated that there's so much process. This is the biggest project I've ever done. I honestly had no idea how much time it would take to build it. It's more than I expected. It's always more than I expected. So I'm in the thick of it. I'm in the wallows of the tunnel where I can't see light at either end, and all I can do is just keep punching forward. And every day I get closer and closer to finishing the whole thing. So there you go. Anyway, I'm done ranting. I'll stop playing my tiny little fiddle and get back to work. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. We're going to do some book work. We're going to do some book cover artwork for a commission. So it won't be me doing this stuff. It'll be like painting happy forests and then demons destroying those forests. It'll be fun. So if you guys want to catch more of that stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me. Thanks a lot. All right, howdy.